Good morning. I'm Lucy Jeanette Cain, and I've lived in Dallas for the past 75 years. My birthday is August 27th, so I'll be 75. I was born at Parkland Hospital, August 27th, 1947 at 3:30 p.m. And my mother was very happy when I came out. I attended St. Anthony's Catholic School from the time I was 4 years old until the eighth grade. And then I attended James Madison High School, where I finished with honors and I was accepted into Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. I was a Fisk University Jubilee singer, which was a very, very good experience. And I also had the opportunity to be one of the old Jubilee singers that was displayed in the Nashville paper for the for the fifth centennial in 1966, which was quite an honor. My life has revolved around helping people and helping people and helping people because that's what life is all about. The one thing that I really appreciate about me in my life is that I've been able to grow up in a community where people cared and where it was a community where every child had some kind of purpose in life, and every child was mentored, and the neighborhood cared about you. We don't have that today, but that's very much needed because if we're going to coach and develop our children and make them what we want them to be for the future, we got to have some kind of togetherness in the family because it takes a village to raise a child. Also, I when I finished Fisk, I came back home and I got a job with the Wall on Poverty. That was during the time of the Johnson administration. And I was a community organizer. So I organized community. Some of the organizations that were organized during our time are still in operation, which is very good. After working with the Wall on Poverty, I opened up a daycare center called Happy House Nursery School. It was a Montessori school and it did very, very well. After that, I went to work for Mutual Life Insurance Company of New York, and I was the first black to be hired in the Southwest. And they sent me to Fort Worth first, and then to Corpus Christi, then to New York. And I stayed in New York a couple of years, and then I went out to Oklahoma, Tulsa, where I had my own agency, which was a great experience. After that, my grandmother became ill, and I came home to help my mother with my grandmother. And I was here for about 2 years before I went on an assignment with Kelly Services. That's a temporary service, and they sent me to AT&T for a day, and I stayed 20 years. And that was a very rewarding experience. I did a lot of traveling with AT&T. I stayed in Atlanta, Georgia, 2 years to work on a revenue recovery project where I was able to recover $750 million that was lost during the strike. And I also was head of the UNCF and did a number of things at AT&T in the leadership position. After AT&T, I decided to get married, and I married a minister, and I moved to Newton, Mississippi, which was not on the spectrum of what I was used to. So I was there for a while. After my divorce, I moved back to Dallas, and I renovated the house where I'm sitting now, and I moved into it in 2003. And I've been here ever since, trying to help and trying to create and trying to structure and trying to bring the community together. Right now, I'm working as a claims adjuster. I adjust claims for auto and also property. So that's a very rewarding experience. Plus, I can work from home, which is a very good thing now with this heat and with the COVID. Also, I work in community organizations. I work with Friends of Fair Park, so I did my time there. And now I'm the chairman of the board for Viola's House. Viola's House is a home for teenage pregnant girls who can stay there for a 6-month period until they have had their babies, and they get counseling and they get an opportunity to get an education and to get their children. Our latest project has been to open up a clothing store for babies and children over on Home Street. And the girls can go in and take courses, and from the course they get tokens to buy clothes. My family has probably been in South Dallas for the last, I'll say 80 years, because my grandmother was 94 when she passed away here, and she came like in her 50s. So, and my mother was 99. She passed in 2012. She spent all of her time in South Dallas. And my mother said if everybody had stayed in South Dallas and not gone to other areas, South Dallas would have been as beautiful as Highland Park, because people would have kept up their properties and they would have been able to have nice yards and to do their homes, and it would have been a very nice neighborhood. Spring Avenue was one of the main streets over here, and at that time it was called East Dallas. And Greater Bethlehem Baptist Church was up on that way. And Reverend G.A. Hobart Shepherd was kind of the influence in this community. He made sure that all the children went to Bishop College, because that's where he wanted them to go, although he went to Fisk for his master's. So he accepted my going to Fisk. But he encouraged children in this neighborhood to go to Bishop College, because he helped bring Bishop to Dallas. And his wife was my piano teacher, Miss Bertha Shepherd. And I think they have a choir named after her now at the church. But they moved to Forney Road, and I think they changed the name of the church, but it's still, to me, Greater Bethlehem Baptist Church. And it was a strong source for Bible school, and it kept us engaged all of the time. The first time I went to the music hall was in 1957. At that time, I was 10 years old, and we went to see Jack Benny. And I remember my mother taking me, and we had to sit in the balcony because Black people couldn't sit downstairs at that time. It was a very good show, and it gave me an idea of what the stage was like for New York. And I was very, very excited about that. We had a great time. Another show was My Fair Lady. That was a very good show. So I remember that. At Oklahoma. Oh, Oklahoma. My first memory of the state fair, I was probably about 6 years old. And I remember having on this cashmere sweater, and I got cotton candy all over the front of it. And I remember winning this little pig and this little piggy bank at the State Fair of Texas, if you can believe that. That's been years ago. And I remember winning all of these, so I counted myself to be pretty lucky. The state fair then, we could only go one day, of course, and that was Negro Achievement Day to the state fair. And then we began to pick at the state fair because they wouldn't let us go but one day, but now we can go any day, so things have really changed. It was wonderful. It was kind of like a reunion, because not only would people come from Dallas, but they would come from all over Texas. There would be school buses lined up with children coming to the state fair. And it was good to see everybody who was like you at the fair. That was a good part about it. In 1963, I was a junior in high school, and we talked about redlining in our history classes. And we began to know the difference. And also, in 63, I think my mother was getting a loan or a lien to fix up, to renovate the inside of our house, and to bring in, at that time we had a built-in kitchen with a dishwasher, which we still have, and a built-in stove. All those were new appliances back at that time. So she had to really, really talk strong at the bank, and they wanted her to put up so much of her savings just to borrow the money, and she wouldn't. So she really stuck it out. But that's when I really knew about redlining, because we couldn't go in the bank and get money like other people. My mother liked good produce, and in our neighborhoods, we couldn't get good produce. So she was a Tom Thumb shopper, and she went to stores in the Lakewood area, in Highland Park. All of her meat she got in those areas, because in the neighborhood store they just didn't have the facility, and they didn't have the clientele to get the kind of name brand things that my mother cooked with, and she was an excellent cook. So I was always out of the neighborhood at the cleaners. Zena's Cleaners is where we took our clothes, and then Fishburne's when Zena's closed. And she always wanted quality. And if you want quality, you got to go outside. I remember it being okay because my mother always had me dressed to the nine, and I got compliments, and a lot of times the Caucasian people would say, "I'll be glad when she can go to the school that my daughter goes to," and on and on. So I didn't get any pushback, but but by the same token, we knew that we were different, and we knew that things were different in that part of town. I'll never forget one Saturday we were shopping at Tyches, and Tyches is now where it's where the legal school, the law school used to be for UNT. And we were in there, and during that time, black people couldn't try on hats. They said their heads were too greasy, so they had to put something over their heads that they couldn't try it on. And I was there, and I said, "Oh, I want to try on this hat, Mama. I want to try on this hat." And so my mother said, "No, you can't try it on, honey. You can't try on the hat." So this white sales lady came over, and she said, "Why can't she try it on?" and shoved it on my head. So I thought that was really funny. And then another time we were in the store, and my mother didn't like escalators. She liked elevators, but I wanted to ride the escalator. So she said, "Honey, I don't want to go on the escalator." So this Caucasian man came. He said, "Come on, honey, let's go on down the escalator." And my mother said, "Well, I had to follow my child because, he thought that I was afraid, but it was my mother." So I thought that was a good experience. So I haven't really had any real bad experiences except when I sat in at the counter down at Piccadilly's, right next to Neiman Marcus was Piccadilly's. At Piccadilly's, we had to sit for hours and hours and hours, and they refused to serve us, and we knew they wouldn't serve us. But we sat there and smiled and tried to talk to each other, and they kept saying, "We don't serve ends, we don't serve ends," and we said, "We don't eat ends either. We'd like a hamburger, French fries, and a Coke." So that just went on and on until finally they had to break down and start serving. Uh, and that was after the Civil Rights Bill was passed in '65. Well, really, what impacted my experience the most is the raise in taxes and how the taxes have risen in this part because of gentrification. Before gentrification, the taxes over here were reasonable. People could pay 500 to 700 a year, some 200. But after gentrification, they've risen to like 1,400, and that's almost impossible for a person only getting an income of 3,000 or 2,000 a month. That has really impacted a lot of people and kept a lot of people working past their retirement age. The reason I'm working is that I choose to work because I want to keep up with the technology, and I want to be able to communicate as long as I live in this world. If I can't communicate properly, and if I don't know what's going on, if I can't do email, if I can't do Snapchat, if I can't do Facebook, if I can't keep up with what's going on, then I want to move on because this world is rapidly changing, and also crypto, the whole nine yards. So the reason that I want to keep working is because I want to keep my mind sharp and be able to get in on the good things that are going on in this world. You don't have a ring camera, you're out of it. So security is one of the best things that you can have in our community, in this community today. There was a time when we could sleep with our doors open, but not anymore. So you have to be aware. I've had a car stolen from my driveway. It was an Acura, and they said they're the easiest cars to steal, Hondas. So when I went to get a new car, I called and I said, "What is the hardest car to steal?" And they said a Volvo. I said, "Well, then I'm going to come over and get one." And sure enough, it is. People don't fool with it much because after 2 miles, it deadlocks. You can't start it. So it has a lot of safety features that I like. Plus, I began to like the car, and I still drive a Volvo now. But that's the one thing is the security. And the other thing that's changed in the community, we have a lot of renters, people who rent. And renters don't take care of their property like homeowners. So, but they do, the renters that we have are pretty good at keeping up their homes, but nobody keeps up your house like you do. So that's another change. What I would really like to see are the parks, the swimming pools. I learned to swim up at Dunbar when we could swim from 3 to 5. The girls and the boys swim, I think, from two to 3 or whatever. But we come out and we had buddy calls, and at that time, nobody had COVID, nobody had any diseases, and we were healthy, and children got out. So I want to see more beautiful parks, nice places for our children to go where they can, get fresh air and enjoy what life is all about, nature, and get off of these computers sometimes. I think they need to get out more and get into the elements. Well, I'm proud to be from South Dallas because South Dallas to me, is one of the richest areas in Dallas. And it's being shown now because every day you cannot do anything without getting a call. Are you interested in selling your property? Are you interested in selling your property? So it is a nice, it's 18 blocks from downtown. I can get anywhere in 20 minutes. And that's the one thing that I like. If I don't know where I would move to if I moved from here because it's very convenient. There's bus service, there's train service, and there's just a lot of things that are makes it eligible for you to move around very quickly from South Dallas. Okay, during my young adulthood, when I was right out of college, it was like every weekend there was something going on that was fun, and we would dress up, no jeans, no none of that. We would dress up and look nice and go to different places, go to clubs, and not there was no shooting and there was no stabbings at the clubs. People acted civil. They were glad to see each other. We just congregate and just talk and chat, and it was a lot of fun just being young and not having to deal with all the pressures of violence. I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air, with one enormous chair. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Lots of chocolate for me to eat, lots of cold bringing lots of heat. Warm hands, warm heart, warm feet. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely?